My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice cold. I'm only here to even the score. Whoa. My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice cold. We down right now, but did it before. Whoa. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is sewn up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is sewn up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Knighted Ones podcast, episode number 58, or episode 6 of season 2. We are the only podcast that features a former UCF national champion, a former UCF radio host, an ESPN analyst and hoops player, an infamous rapper, our resident influencer, and a IG star, shooting the breeze, talking UCF sports. Remember to like and follow us on YouTube, IG, and check out the 70-plus teams and conferences on the College Huddle, Big 12 Huddle, 4th in Florida, and our new stream, which will eventually be coming soon. So, why do I have a smile on my face to start this show? I have no idea. I guess it was one of those situations where I'm just happy that we have UCF football. I have literally been banned from my alumni viewing spot here in the Panhandle because we have lost the 3 games that I've attended here. I wore my big game Jordans that on my Jordan 1s that everybody bought because they were on sale. If you didn't, you missed out. They're gold, black, and white. So I'm happy about all those things. But man, what a game! I don't know what to say. I had a lot of expectations of this team. You've heard me talk about this team quite a bit on what my expectations were, and this team just didn't play to my expectations. So we'll get into that a little bit. We'll do a little text talk. I don't know how gnarly that will get because literally there were probably 1,000 text talks of frustration. I think Allen declared war on the UCF football program. And, you know, we'll talk about it. I mean, that's all we can do. We've gone through our motions for 2 days. It's time to talk about it, kind of detail it, kind of understand it. That's the only thing you can do when you've been through a traumatic experience, and that's what that game was. We'll talk about the keys to the game, how we fared on our score predictions. Obviously, Ben, Josh, and Alan lost. I didn't because, you know, I didn't have a score prediction last week. We'll talk a little bit about the Florida game. We'll have a Florida preview with a Florida College Huddle insider who runs another Florida podcast, so that'll be fun. Trey, I'm sure, is going to yell at a cloud this week. He's been whispering all season, but I think this time it's going to be a roar. We'll talk a little bit about the Big 12 football scores, get some listener love in there. Josh will talk about his sometimes funny fact of the week, and we'll get a quick update on other UCF sports that Alan does not watch. So without further ado, let me go ahead and bring to the stage the man, the myth, the legend, Nobra.
Hey now.
Folks, unfortunately, Nobra will not be able to do his patented hair flip this week because he has a hamster running his internet connection at his new place, and he didn't give it enough food. So please don't starve the hamsters, Nobra, but welcome back to the show. Glad to have you back, my friend.
Glad to be back.
All right. So I got a little bit of a laugh from that one. All right, next to the stage, someone who's thoroughly disgusted by this football team, Trey Neal.
Greetings, gentlemen. How you doing?
Great, man. Next to the stage, someone who also suffered through many years of mediocre college football with me, Ben Stout.
What's up? Yeah, I got a little bit of smile on my face. It's 2 days removed, but it's we've been in our feelings as UCF fans for the last few days, and we're definitely, I guess we're ready to talk about it. We'll see how much talking or yelling we actually do.
All right. And last but not least, but always last, Josh Lazar.
You Knight fans deserve bars, but this team doesn't. So no bars until we win another game, which better
bar restriction.
soon.
A bar restriction.
Bars. I'm putting bars on bars.
Okay. All right. No spitting bars from Josh Lazar this week, but that's okay. You did mention something there at the top, Josh, that I think every Knight fan should be proud of, and that was the heck of the atmosphere and how we showed out for the Big Noon kickoff. According to them, this was the largest ever crowd that they've ever had. So you guys showed out, you showed proud. And I will tell you, with everything that was coming out, watching it on the show, that was a pretty amazing experience. I did get to go to the game day experience when ESPN was here, and they even said we were one of the largest crowds, if not the largest crowd, I think, at the time for the Cincinnati game. So you guys did your job. You were loud, in the stadium. It got to pretty close to 2018 Cincy levels there for a while. And they stayed. Everybody stayed in spite of a rain delay. The students stayed in spite of the fact that the game didn't go the way that we wanted it to. Everybody stayed. So hats off to you, Knight Nation. You did a great job. And I wish I would have been there with you. Josh, you were there.
Yep.
What were your thoughts?
You know what? We're going to talk about the game. I'm not going to talk about the game part. I mean, maybe I'll do the Big Noon kickoff, then we'll start with the game and get into it. So I was late in arriving to the Big Noon kickoff. I think we actually parked, and I'm not even going to get into the Arboretum parking not being available and parking by across the street. That was a whole debacle, and that'll be for another conversation. When we eventually got to Memory Mall, I mean, it was packed, and we saw people walking the other way. I didn't quite get it, and I got it by noon, but we were walking there, and Memory Mall has like 3 sections. They were at the top, right near ROTC, and then Memory Mall was relatively normal, if you will, for those 2 other sections. I got some good side chat about the signs. Oh yeah, if you want to see, I will tell you, the good signs didn't make it to Twitter. Go to Josh Lazar on Twitter. I'm not calling it X. I made a post of 18 signs of every various fun or not fun thing.
There were some raunchy ones that were being confiscated by the crew there on site and it ended up in the trash and not on TV. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
The one, Josh, did you see the one? Did you see the one? The one that I liked the most was the welcome to Billy, or tune in to Billy Napier's retirement party next week.
If you want to see that sign, you could go on my Twitter. That is, I saw that too. It was great. So anyway, walking into Memory Mall, I'm walking through the basically near the arena and then to the second and it's packed. Like it always is packed. That's where I tailgated for the Texas game. I remember that being as packed. And then they had the Big Noon kickoff. So if you're doing that shot like they were doing, the crane shot kind of down the barrel, all you're seeing is people pretty much packed in that front section and then tailgate tents to basically the arena. It was big. When we got there, it was maybe 10, 20, 15 or whatever. I was 1 can in my Kevin. One of these days, Kevin needs to come on. Kevin, who we sit together most games, was about 5 in. So this is I went back into our box of alcohol. I'm like, where is everything? And it was gone.
Hold on, did you just say your box of alcohol?
Yeah,
you guys drinking like box wine? What was going on?
You had like a bunch
of drink during tailgates out of a box, like you're 21 years old.
Well, I mean, we
step up your game.
I'm not bringing a cooler all around campus. I can take a 12-pack and just grab drinks out of it. Obviously, Kevin was done in 30 minutes. I'm not even going to get into my bottle of Gentleman Jack that exploded in E6. Another story for another time. Let me get to the Big Noon kickoff. So it was packed. It was hot. Like there was clouds for most of the game. There was rain for most of the game. There was none at the Memory Mall. People were like asking for water. It was probably on the TV, like a lot of We Want Water chants. But to your point, Roger, it was similar to the vibe of game day and the excitement of game day. And I don't know if you're getting that in Ohio State. right? I just don't know, right? I've only been to that one game, and they sat on their hands for 3 quarters before, they finally got above us and Blake Bortles. So it was just a really good vibe. It was a great experience. There was a lot of play between the team on TV and the fans and whatnot. There was some dude, I wanted to ask if I could buy his picture. It's probably big in the center. There was someone who painted like a Kobe and everyone else, and it was a really nice sign there. I think I got a picture of that too. But the vibe was really good. Like we were all, anytime they would talk about Travis Hunter, we would do like the Kobe, not Kobe stuff, the RJ Harvey stuff. It was good. Things that were interesting. People know who DJ Khaled is. If you're in your 20s, you probably know him for memes and maybe some other shit.
Crowd surfing
Stuff. So we also, right? Oh, the crowd surfing thing was amazing. I was about 5 people in or close. I didn't
ran away.
You didn't have to touch DJ Khaled, but it was close. And when Brandon Marshall was doing it, I was pretty close too. But thankfully, didn't have to hold anyone up. No one seemed to know who Fat Joe was. I'm like,
what?
Yes, I saw no one singing who was under 35. They know. I was like, how? But if you think about it, when's the last time Fat Joe put out a record that everyone like? I was like, oh, that's awesome, and it just kind of, at least in the crowd, felt like a something in the punch bowl. So it was just
Well, you got to remember, I mean, not everybody's as old as we are, Josh. I think this is the official sign, other than the gray hair in my beard, that we've reached that age plateau.
Yeah,
However, I will say you are still older than I am. So
I am, and I don't look it, so it's great.
Yeah,
So no, it was really good. And I enjoyed it, and everyone was really hot, and the sun was just beating down at everyone. I met one of my students in the middle of it. He's like, "Hey, that was fun. It was a good time." This is the thing. This game
sounds like there's more to the story there.
No, it wasn't fine. The only thing bad about this day was the game after like the first 2 interceptions in a row.
All right, so we'll get into the game.
Yeah,
let's jump into the pregame,
Okay.
which is the text talk,
Okay.
and jump into our text talk. So, Trey Neal, do you have a text talk for us out of the 1,622 angry rant texts from Alan? Alan is so angry he did not show up for duty this week and decided to sit this one out. I mean, if you saw the vitriol that was being spewed in that chat, oh my goodness! All right, Trey, what do you got? Pick one.
So mine, because Alan's not here, just to summarize, was just when Alan sent the trash can. I think that summarized everything. That was a horrible performance. I mean, that just summarized how I think everybody felt. I mean, we saw there was plenty of.
Let me put some context around that, right? So Alan was in Canada at a bachelor party for his brother-in-law, and I swear if the wedding party didn't think that he had a girlfriend or something, I don't know what to say, because it was text after text after text after text after text.
It was bad. It was bad. Like bad, not bad, brutal. Bad meaning good. It was bad. I could follow up that too, because it kind of
you can't.
Yes.
You're last but not least.
So
Ben goes next.
Fine.
So you got to put a pin on it, Josh. All right, Ben.
I'll the main one that I could find that was, I guess, safe enough for the podcast from Alan I think it was right before the game was about to be over, so we basically knew it was gonna. Well, we unfortunately knew well before that, but Josh was trying to kind of be a little more mellow, and he says, "There's a lot of poop emoji here. He said they are not this good. Maybe we're this bad. I just don't think so. And then Alan comes right off the top rope and just says 2 words: "We suck."
Yeah.
And so that was just a tame version of what. If we go into the ones after the game, all of us were just ranting, but that was right as the game was ending, and Josh wasn't necessarily trying to put a positive spin on it because that's impossible. But
I stopped trying to put a positive spin on anything about like midway through the second quarter because it was just a flood. At that point,
it was great because Alan was having none of it. He was just
none
like,
of it. He was having
Alan
none of
wasn't
it.
having it.
All right, Josh. Last
Sure.
but not least, but always last. Josh
So
Lazar.
one thing we did after Big Noon kickoff with a small group of friends is we went to the alumni tailgate in the alumni center. That's something I've never done before, which is kind of cool. And out back, I also think I saw most of RJ Harvey's family. So that was nice. But they have the little foam fingers of UCF alumni, and I kept that thing I walked it all the way back to my car so it wouldn't get wet. And after I got home, I texted my daughter is going ape over a big UCF finger that I got at the alumni center. So the day was a win there. It's about the best win I could probably get. She was really excited about it. Now it's in her room. And then one that unfortunately is near and dear to the hearts of one of our co-hosts. What are we all personalities? I don't know. I texted and I looked it up. This was the worst home loss since Trey's freshman season. Yeah, Trey's not old, but he's not newly alumni.
Freshman season. That's pushing a decade. That's
Trey.
Yep.
Did you ever get your degree from UCF or is your degree from Nebraska?
No, I got my degree from UCF.
I think did you get
I
enough to get a
graduated.
master's in Nebraska?
I was a grad transfer.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, grad transfer.
By the way, for those of you on YouTube, it is incorrect. It was a Twisted Tea, actually. It was.
So the bougie Bud Light. All right.
Yeah,
so
Kevin's trying to drop some pounds. Same here.
All right. So all right. So we got through text talk. I'm glad you guys weren't on our text thread this past week because it was brutal. However, the game. Let's talk about the game and talk about what we were going to put in the past, and then we'll move on to the Florida game. So obviously UCF lost 48-21 at home. Everybody's like, what went wrong? What went wrong? We kind of talked about this a little bit pre-show as we were getting set up, right? Honestly, the comment I made in our text thread was these guys look like they're starstruck. It's almost like they bought into the hype of Deion and the team and, everything that was going on with it. And, they just didn't. They seemed like they were nervous. Obviously, I've listened to some of the coaches' interviews afterwards. Gus's interviews are pretty standard and straightforward, right? He doesn't give you a lot of insight, but a lot of the assistants will give you what they saw, right? Bits and pieces of what they saw. And the biggest thing that they did that I noticed during the game is they did not play their traditional offense at all. They played a single back offense, which is not what they typically do. They were trying to spread us out. I'm pretty sure they watched a bunch of TCU tape and said, okay, if we can spread these guys out and get them one-on-one, our receivers can beat their defensive backs. And it was a momentum thing. I mean, we had the momentum when we got that first interception. KJ did not throw it to the pylon, which is what you're supposed to do whenever you have a play like that. Kobe dropped a touchdown. People forget about that. Kobe dropped a touchdown in the end zone. That was an easy touchdown. And
hold on. And Johnny Richardson was wide open on the next play too, and then threw the pick. It was 2 tries that they had.
Well, that's, let's talk about that a little bit. KJ Jefferson early on this game just looked lost. He didn't look like he knew where he needed to be. There was one time where I think he turned to the wrong side to put the ball in the running back's hands. There were several plays where he kept when he should have pitched or whatever. He was just reading it all wrong. So I don't know what was going on in KJ Jefferson's mind. He never got in rhythm until probably towards the end of the game. And not everything was on him, but there was a lot of mistakes that KJ Jefferson made in this game, whether it was the touch that he was putting on the ball, whether it was, there were times Ben, I think, asked the question before the show. He said, hey, does KJ even know the playbook? Is that what's limiting to us? And I'll be honest with you, up until this point, he was doing a lot of, tucking the ball and running or having straight up play action passes where he knew he was going to either run or throw. But they loaded the box, which we expected them to. They're going to have to try to stop the run because if we can run on them, the offense is going to click, right? They were going to try to get us to play from behind, which we did against TCU, right? And they were going to make us beat them that way because they felt their offense could outpace us if they got ahead enough. And it wasn't like they scored like 21 in a quarter. It was 14, 7, whatever. These were all surmountable. Every single stat that's out there, including time of possession, favored UCF. Every single one, except turnovers. And if you have 4 turnovers in a game,
what else? Josh?
Penalties.
Penalties. Yeah.
What else? Red zone scoring.
Red zone scoring. Oh God! Don't. You're giving me flashbacks, man. Everyone in the audience.
Let's put some perspective on that too. I mean, the red zone scoring. I don't understand some of the play calling.
Run the ball. Run the ball.
That's what we do. I mean, you've got Penny Boone. It's not like he's light either. So you've got RJ, you've got Penny Boone, you've got KJ. And KJ, I will say this. KJ is probably still hurting because he had bruised ribs coming out of TCU. And he had those in the second.
Not hearing it.
I'm just saying.
That man is 6'3", 255 pounds, and we're playing college football. Everybody had something bruised.
You don't think he's got bruised ribs?
For his rushing touchdown, he straight up ran over that kid.
Yeah,
he ran him over, and he stood over him like it was nothing.
Roger, I love you're giving him the benefit of the doubt. I appreciate it.
I will say this. I've never had bruised ribs, but my teammates that have had bruised ribs, it's extremely painful. And it doesn't just go away after one off week, right?
Okay, Roger, but like you've already stated the truth, which is that he was turning the wrong way on certain plays. He made probably it's actually not even close. The worst turnover of the season so far on the first drive when we had all of the momentum. Yeah. He throws that the way he's supposed to throw that, like a quarterback that's getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to play football. He throws that the way he's supposed to throw that ball. Instead of 6 yards short, it's a touchdown for UCF as opposed to an interception in the end zone. That was a god-awful, inexcusable throw, and I'm sorry. He deserves all that criticism from a guy who's never played football on the field. It doesn't matter because I haven't gotten paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to play football on the field. All right, so he deserves all of that criticism. And the other thing is bruised ribs doesn't make you prepare or doesn't make you lack of preparation for the game. It doesn't have you provide any lack of preparation for the game. And what I mean by that preparation is that the certain decisions that were made or the lack of seemingly understanding the play call and the decision tree that comes off of those play calls, like it just, to me, there's not much of an excuse for it for right now. Like what Gus loves to say about KJ, his favorite line to say about KJ is, man, he's played a lot of football. He's an experienced guy. Where's the experience coming in? Like we saw it on the we've seen it for 7 minutes. This 7 minutes of game time. It was the last 7 minutes of the TCU game. We've seen that experience. We haven't seen it since, and we didn't see it before that. I'm just disappointed.
Well, I mean, I will say this: there was a lot of.
I'm not putting it all on him. Trust me, I'm putting it on. There was total team loss.
Yeah, there was a lot of pressure coming from Colorado. They had their ears pinned back, and Paul Rubel, he had in pass protection, and he's played well pretty much all season long, but he had a bad game against Colorado. I mean, a bad game against Colorado. Right?
Yeah, I want to say that one more time just so everybody understands. I'm not just putting it all on KJ. This is a total team loss from the top down.
Yeah, there's so many things to poke holes in, right? I felt the same way. I felt this team should have been more prepared for this game coming out of an off week than what they looked. It didn't look like they ran practice. Maybe he gave them the week off. I don't know what he did. But it did not appear that this team knew what it was doing for this week, and I'm saying that across the board. Yeah. Our offensive line did not open the gaps that they're used to. I mean, we still put up over 400 yards of offense. Like, don't get me wrong, right? But at the same time, they did not play to their standard or to the level that we're used to seeing them play at. The run game, RJ never broke out. He had a few 8 to 10 yard runs here and there. And he still averaged more than the average running back by far, but not the 8-9 yards a carry that we're used to seeing out of RJ Harvey. When I was watching him, one of the things he's really, really good at is being patient and allowing his blocks to, develop. It almost felt like he was hesitant running the ball this week. He waited a beat too long, waiting for his blocking to come up. But I don't know, man. Colorado wanted it more. It looked like they wanted it more. I think they heard all week how they were going to be 14-point dogs. I didn't see the ferocity that I'm used to seeing out of our team. I didn't see the holding the blocks. I didn't see. I saw them get beat. They got whooped. And as far as the coaching staff is concerned, they did not look prepared. They were surprised. We did change some things up defensively in the second half as far as how we were lining up. Ethan Barr, you talk about seniors that should be really, really good. Ethan Barr is a great linebacker. He had a 49 PFF. I don't know what was going on with our tackling early on in the game. These guys are hitting them with shoulder pads up high, and then they're falling forward for 6 yards because they're hitting them that way instead of wrapping them up. Like, I don't understand. You got safety help, and you're sitting there and you're bumping them with the shoulder instead of wrapping them up. What are we doing? And I saw that time and time again. And earlier on this season, our guys have been pretty good about tackling.
Right.
And it's like they forgot.
It started to look like last season where we were we were just unprepared for any type of run game. You're right. We just saw a lot of missed tackles, especially in the first half. But then it carried through to the second half as well. But yeah, you're right. Like that's the part that those two things, in my opinion, and I'm going to say those two things like that are most concerning to me is that we looked unprepared. And then we looked like we had no heart, like just no heart. Like we got down in that game. We had some inopportune things happen. We lost that momentum that I just talked about with that turnover. And it just seemed like we just well, I guess they're as good as the media says they're going to be, right? Like the fact that Colorado came into our house with all of the fans jumping, the fans doing their job. They came into our house and just wanted it more than we did, like wanted the win more than we did. A conference game, like that's inexcusable. And being unprepared is also inexcusable, especially coming out of a bye week.
Yep.
We had 2 weeks to prepare for this team.
Yep.
And if they looked ahead to Florida, then that's even worse. Florida's not in our conference. It's even worse if someone says they looked ahead to Florida. And we don't know if that happened or not. The fact that they just looked a little bit lost at times and didn't know how to respond to some of the things that they were doing. You said it as well, Roger. We all knew that they were going to stack the box. Was anybody surprised with the defense that we saw from Colorado the other night? Nobody was surprised by it. So why did we get stopped? We should have known how to play against that. And
well, you know what killed me though, Ben, to your point, and I want to highlight your point here.
Yeah.
Why did we elect to receive?
Right. Why put the ball in their hand, their electric offense's hands? Like why give it to Shedeur Sanders? Yeah, it's a fair point. It's a fair point.
I mean, the other point I want to kind of allude to.
To be honest, that was the right decision. We got it.
It worked out. I mean, we didn't capitalize, but it did work.
We didn't do it all season. And then the other part about this is that I'm going to say Frost never did it. Frost always took the ball, right? And the theory is we're going to set the tone, right? The other thing that I was going to say is Allen, he's been talking about the wide receivers all week.
Oh, yeah.
All they had to do was shut down Kobe. KJ, say what you want about KJ, but he needed some wide receiver help this week that he didn't get. I was watching that too.
Well, Kobe's had two bounce out of his hands in the end zone. This is not the first time Kobe on a short pass has done that.
Oh, I know. He did that earlier in the season. He did that a lot last season.
Javon Baker did. The other parts of this. So being in the stadium, let me just kind of wrap some part of this up. If you think that they fell flat, that stadium vibe got weird right after the first quarter. Like the vibe was completely off. And I know vibes in this. If you were in that stadium, something was off. I can't name it, but it wasn't like Cincinnati game day, right? It was darn close to that loud in the beginning, but it wasn't Cincinnati game day. And I could
hear cheers from the TV in the third quarter. I could hear cheers whenever Colorado did something.
Oh, people, they started. The students did their job for the most part, but a lot of cleared out. And I feel like some in the halftime, and I feel like it's not the play. Honestly, I feel like some of the vibes I think in the stadium were a little off twofold. One, the play. Two, a lot of people got up really early to do all the big noon kickoff stuff. And I saw so many students with Borgs that, they were drinking all day.
Well, and then you got the rain delay. It was funny because our buddy Rob texted us and it was like, all right, Garage D is lit right now. And he was like, I don't think most of these fans are going to make it through the game because they were all, what else was there to do but hide and drink?
Well, I was the stupid one. I sat in the middle of the stadium without anything and just sat in the rain. I think once it dried up, it was nice. But I got there at like.
Well, you kept your seat dry, so at least you had that for the second half, right?
And all the jack that was on me evaporated. But it was the vibes were so off, and I think it was a mix of three things. It's the best I can get. It was a mix of the delay, right? So that was round one, not great. Although the delay did change the late arriving crowd. Like at 4:20 something, everyone was in there. Like it was packed. 1, 2, people have been drinking and partying all day, and usually the fans invigorate the team. This time we needed the team to probably do a few more things to invigorate the fans, and it just never happened. And it was off. And I do think it was possibly a bit of rat poisoning, maybe a bit more of the team feeling themselves and getting out coached on 11. Like Trey, is there any reason we shouldn't be able to defend an 11 offense at all?
No. I'll answer for Trey. Absolutely not.
That was the worst performance to come off of a bye week I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Like that,
man.
to be where, and let me preface that 0-12. I'm sure everybody after that bye we were horrible, but like just to be
but
where
most of
we
those
were
games
at,
were close. I mean,
Yeah.
you lost by a field goal. You guys found ways to lose.
Yeah, but like to be where we were at then versus where we were at now, like we were 3-0. I mean, like Ben said, if you would have asked me before the game, my feelings on the trajectory of the season would have been literally 180 versus how I felt after, because you can't come out at home, a big game. This is a big game. Like, I mean, at home off of a bye and lose by 27 points. And it didn't feel close.
No.
Maybe after the first, that was a little bit, but after that, it never really felt close. And it wasn't like they did anything spectacular.
I'll ask you this. As a DB, what did they do to our defenders? I know I have my own thoughts, and I'll give them after you say this, but what did they do offensively that you think hurt us the most on defense?
I mean, I don't think they did anything different. Let me say, Travis Hunter is going to be Travis Hunter. Like we said, he's the best college football player in not in the NFL, in college right now. Going to be a great NFL player. So
according to Kobe Hudson, yes.
Yeah, him being
just ask Kobe Hudson.
Yes, him balling out. That's completely fine. Like I expected him to do that. I didn't expect anybody else to just have these crazy games. And so as a DB, most of these guys, again, Ben, you talked about it before the show, they're going to catch the ball like Shadur Sanders is throwing them the ball. Like, no, he's throwing to his guy. He's not throwing to you. So you don't catch I promise. They never teach you to catch a ball like a receiver at DB. You have to attack.
Oh, well, if we're gonna flip
let's
to
break
the
down
defense,
that play. Let's break down that play we're talking about.
Defense, Antoine Jackson, perfect coverage, perfect technique, way to be on top of the route because your help is underneath. Yeah, your help's underneath, so you're up top. Step for step with the man. He did everything right except the last part, which is the most important part. He didn't attack the football. He acted like there was nobody there and he was catching a punt. That's not how Shepard, he went up and took the football right out of his hands, and that's a touchdown. That's literally the difference of a touchdown to a turnover. That's a 7-point swing just there. Same thing, and then on the other side, KJ, you underthrow a corner route. That's the difference between a touchdown to an interception. So you're literally talking 2 plays, a 14-point swing on 2 plays.
Well, and those aren't the only ones. Like,
exactly, that's not the only ones. Those are just the ones we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, late in the game, but like you lose the ball. Sometimes you lose the ball. I get it, but even that last, fumble 6. I mean, you're talking about three, and I'm sure they scored on they scored on that one. You're talking at least 3 possible 14-point swing. And it didn't help that we can score on a wheel route all day long. It seems, but the 75 yard pass to Harvey didn't help anything because
this is my biggest gripe with the offense, and this is what I've said for weeks. Is it great when we can run the ball? 1,000%. When you stop the run, and I wouldn't even say, I mean, you look at the yards, we still ran the ball, but most of our runs were 1 yard, 2 yards, and then we might break one. But for the most part, they just wanted to get to 3rd and long and make KJ throw.
Yeah.
Outside of that, we throw to Kobe Hudson, and that's it. So, like I said, if I were a defensive coordinator, I told Roger this a couple of weeks, stop the run, double team Kobe, make everybody else beat you. And like you said, the problem, I agree. I think Randy Pittman's a great player. I think Xavier Townsend's a great player. The problem is when the only way they're getting really the ball is by deception. That's the thing. RJ Harvey scored a touchdown on the pass because it was designed for him to sneak out of the backfield and man. That's it. It's not straight, okay, we know you're throwing, beat us. That's where, again, I've always said the good teams can just drop back and throw and win, and that's going to be the demise.
But Trey, let me dovetail onto that real quick, right? So what I saw the difference in our offense this week and what we did versus Colorado. KJ Jefferson kept the ball way too many times. He had options. He was running RPOs, or he was running pitches, or he was running whatever, and he kept the ball. So all the guys did, all the defense did, right? They overloaded, got through the gap, and KJ probably at least 5 or 6 plays. I saw him not pitch when he should have, not hand the ball off when he should have, not whatever, right? The reads were just completely off. I don't know. I know that they switched up their defense a little bit, according to Tim Harris, as far as what they were showing versus what they showed earlier on in the season. But here's where I think offensively they did things that were completely different than what they showed on film, and defensively they did things that were completely different. But that goes back to the coaching staff, and part of it is execution, because KJ Jefferson was not reading his keys properly. He looked lost this game, whether it was turned around trying to hand the ball the wrong way and doing a twirl and then trying to run with it, or whether it was, hey, I had a pitch option here, I should have pitched the ball, or I shouldn't have pulled it out of the running back's hands, or whatever. All of that movement only works if you pick the right option, because if you pick the right option, then you have to, as a defense, account for that other pitch man, that jet sweep, that whatever it is that you're doing. We do that motion every time to set up other plays, but KJ was not reading his reads at all correctly, running the ball.
So but my issue is, Colorado, if people say they switched it, if Tim Harris said they switched it, I get it. That's fine. They didn't switch to something like nobody in football has ever seen. They ran cover 1 and cover 3. All you're doing is, hey, we don't want you to run the ball. We want you to beat us throwing the ball. We're going to bring an extra man in the box because we know you are the number 1 rushing team in the country. Anybody with a brain is going to try to stop the run. RJ Harvey has 13 touchdowns in 3 games. Stop RJ Harvey. That's all they did. The fact that they act like, I don't know, I didn't see the presses, but if they're acting like Colorado did something that just negated the entire offense, we have a bigger issue, because this is everybody.
Yeah, I don't think they were saying that, but I think that the offense is also set up so that, going back to Ben's point about senior Latin teams, right? That was one of the things they talked about on the show, on the game, et cetera. This was a senior Latin team. You've got to be better in your helmet. The things between your ears, you've got to be smarter, because offensively, even with them stacking the box, the way that we have that set up, if we picked the right option, there were opportunities there. KJ did that against TCU in the second half. Well, now, hold on. Let me finish. So in the second half, 100% he did that. The execution was terrible. As far as the coaching is concerned, because I think this is where you're going to with it, Trey, because it's kind of where we were going with that.
Well, I don't even think KJ did that great against TCU in the second half. I just think Kobe Hudson played well because he didn't get guarded by Travis Hunter. When you have Travis Hunter take away our best receiver, that's what happens. When the TCU does not have a Travis Hunter on the team.
Becker, that dude was pretty darn good. The thing that's interesting about Travis Hunter, and I don't know if I looked at it every single time, but I think he only plays both wide receiver and corner nearest to his own sideline. So
it's to save him from running crossfield.
And I agree with that concept. Don't
exploit
you think
it?
Yes, we can see that.
Josh, exactly.
Scheme to have
30 long. Why would you cut KJ to their sideline on one of the best corners in the country? And then our quarterback throws to one of the best corners in the country. That's insane. That's legitimately, when Quentin Flowers, I'm not even kidding you.
Hate that name.
He threw it Mike Hughes one time the entire game, and it was an interception. You know what he did?
Never threw it to him again.
Let's not throw it to him.
Never threw it to him again, right?
I don't. And guess what? USF didn't put Marquez Valdes-Scantling over there anymore because they're like, he's taking away the entire field. Travis Hunter's taking away the entire field. If our offense is legitimately only Kobe Hudson, that's really what we've shown. And as far as passing, besides, X scored on post finally.
Pittman
had a good game. Actually, he probably had the best game out of anybody.
Yeah.
He had a good game overall.
But go-to game on the line or go-to downs. We know we're throwing to Kobe Hudson. Why in the world would you put him on Travis Hunter's side? That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
So I think one of the more evident drives that we're talking about this just in general is being unprepared. The offense didn't look right. It was the first drive of the second half, and I told you guys in a text that I wanted to talk about this drive because it was interesting. We're coming out of halftime. We blew it at the end of the first half. We had an opportunity to, march down the field and try to get something before halftime, and then be able to get the ball back at the end of the half. And we totally blew that drive. Wound up punting that they returned well. They actually got 3 more points, so they had the momentum. It was just terrible. But anyways, we had a chance to kind of get something back. And what you saw in the first 4 or 5 plays of that drive in the first drive of the second half was actually for the first time that I can recall all season, you saw we were running the ball, but we were running the ball in a creative way. We were doing some pitches outside to Johnny Richardson, getting him in space. That's the first time that I could really recall where it mattered all season, where we were actually getting Johnny Richardson in space. And then we even played off of that with a rush up the middle that we faked to Johnny Richardson on the outside, and I think it was Penny Boone that ran for about 5-6 yards up the middle. And then KJ had a scramble. The scramble was 20-something yards, 21 yards for the scramble. And then
you're stretching the field. You're getting people out of the box. That's what you should be doing.
So it just started to look like we were a little bit more we were getting more creative with the play calling, and we popped a big play. So we're like, all right, cool, we're in position. And then we kind of went back to the same old stuff. We kind of went back to the more predictable things that we've been doing all time, the whole time. KJ had a busted play, 4-yard run, and then we get a 4-yard loss. Now it's 3rd and 10. I think that's the play that Trey was talking about, where we go to Kobe, we try to force it to Kobe Hudson. It's an incomplete pass, and then all of a sudden we're backed up. We're on their 37, and it's a long field goal chance if we're going to go for the field goal. Now, here's the biggest thing that I had that I don't think a lot of people noticed, because there was so much negative things to look at overall, that what this may not have been as obvious. I do not blame Colton Boomer for missing a 55-yard field goal.
No.
I 100% blame Gus Malzahn and our coaching staff for taking forever to get the field goal unit onto the field, because the only thing I could tell is that they made that decision too late, and then they hung our kicker out to dry because they didn't call a timeout or just admit to themselves, we're not kicking this because the play clock is going down. It was 1-0, and we just hiked it in time. We were rushing on a 55-yard field goal try with a kicker who has the leg, and he has the ability to kick that field goal and make it. And honestly, I feel like if he goes out there immediately, that decision is made immediately, and he has plenty of time to set up and kick that field goal. I'm telling you, I think he makes that kick, and we have momentum off of a 55-yard field goal. But Gus Malzahn missed that kick, not Colton Boomer. That
same drive, Ben, like you said, we were creative with our runs. We're still running the ball. But legitimately, then he goes to, like you said, the old school. And it was the end around. And again, I'm not even kidding you. I don't know if, again, Xavier Townsend, when he is next to the O-line, he's getting a end around. I don't know if James don't know it,
Yeah.
but he has not ran a route from that alignment all season.
Right.
And that's why they were all over the end run.
Travis Hunter
drive off.
So predictable.
He was on Travis Hunter's side, and as soon as he saw X was there, he turned to the rest of the defense and basically waved him over there. Yeah, he saw him and went like that, and it's exactly what he did. Now, X was in the slot a few times. I don't know if that's new or not. I know. And I think he might have caught one out of it, but no, it was funny. I was watching because he was on the side that I'm the cabana side where I'm sitting, and we see X in that exact same role. And he sees him and like immediately signals over, and then you see the defense shift, and I think he got 4 or 5 on it. But like
the point of
there's only so many teams. Yeah, there's only so many teams that you can tell them where it's going and beat them, right? Yes. In Colorado, I'm not saying should be that team, but you can't give them that many hints. I mean, the whole point of offense versus defense is the defense has no idea, allegedly, sorry, ECU, what's coming, and it's your job to figure it out and beat it. Yep. If you're doing the same thing over and over again, some teams can't handle that. Many teams will. And
especially at this level, most of these teams are going to know these adjustments.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what
I mean.
Gus, like when we played, Gus Malzahn's offense has not changed since 2017 much. There's wrinkles in it that are different. There's players that you might run something different. But the core of his offense has not changed. It's a lot of what we call bells and whistles and eye candy. So it's a lot of motion, a lot of misdirection, but the true plays, he's just running normal plays. So if you can just focus in, which this all Colorado did, they played true to their assignments. If you can play assignment football, you're going to stop a lot of the runs. Now, RJ Harvey is a beast, so you can be there and he can still make you miss. We have those kind of talented guys. Johnny Richardson, you can be there, he's going to make you miss. KJ, you can be there. You just might not be big enough to tackle him from doing it. But for the most part, they stopped it. And then after that, what is our offense after that? After the bells and whistles, we're tricking people with the deception. What else is our offense? And that's where, to me, that's what separates good offense.
It's play action, but we haven't been playing it at all. And I don't know why that is.
So I have a question, Trey, because everyone is, and rightfully so, still on the high of your seasons, right? In 2017. Is Scott Frost's offense still kind of based off of deception with RPOs too?
1,000%. But the difference is because even Coach Heupel's offense, as wide as it is, you're taking out the deception and just making them declare to get football about it. Malzahn, what he's doing with all the motions is making you declare what defense you're seeing. So that it makes the picture for KJ, it should be easy to read. Coach Frost, same way. A lot of motions, a lot of pulling. You see what defense because you have to adjust to it. Coach Heupel, opposite. You put everybody to the sideline, you have to declare the defense now. Like you can't, there's not a lot of defenses you do that. So the difference with those two, Heupel and Coach Frost, the pass game is a lot more advanced. Their receivers run a lot more, I wouldn't say different types of routes, but there's a lot more to the pass game than what Gus Malzahn's is, even from just playing it. And that's the true, the hurdle we're going to have to find. Even last year, what was our best pass offense? Throw it up to Javon Baker. That was
but at the end of the day, I don't know how much of that is Gus trying to cover for KJ or not. I'm serious.
But the thing is, this is the same thing it was in 2017 with Jarrett Stidham, and he's an NFL quarterback. I don't think that's what it is. I just think the pass game, I think Gus is just so gung-ho on running the ball. Nothing wrong with that. You just have to adapt.
You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways because that's how we settle down, right? That's the same thing we did against TCU when we got behind, right?
But the thing with TCU is, again, how did we catch up with TCU? Yeah, we ran the ball, but game on the line, KJ made big throws to Kobe Hudson.
Yeah, true.
They took that away from us.
And
Travis
initially
Hunter was on Kobe.
it was a play
so
action.
what do we do next? What's the secondary piece to the offense? What's the curveball when they take away your fastball? Coach Frost had it. Shoot, Coach O'Leary's offense with Brashad Perriman in them. We had that. Coach Heupel had those things. I have yet to see the curveball with Gus, and this is, again, from 2017. This is at the beginning of the season, his first year. Every year, there's no curveballs. It's
okay. So last thing I'll say. The last thing I'll say about Frost. Frost's offense, he used the same formations and motions to set up other plays. Right? He would run into the teeth of the defense to set up other plays. Same way that Gus Malzahn does, just different. Like Gus Malzahn will go through the A gap 100% of the time if he can, a power run game, right? Whereas Frost went to speedsters, turning the corner. Mm-hmm. That's the difference between those two offenses. But Gus Malzahn also doesn't have Milton either, right? He just doesn't, right? What I will say to that, though, is I would like to see a lot more of the pass game, like you're saying, right? As far as, if we're going to play action, if that's going to be our pass game, then let's play more play action, right? And let's get it started earlier in the season to loosen up the teeth of that defense instead of trying to play SEC-style football, because that's what he's doing. And he lost that against Colorado because they stacked the box and he didn't pivot. And I do blame Gus Malzahn for that. KJ, when you get him in a rhythm, can throw the ball. But I'd like to look, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I'd like to look at his pass attempts this year versus what the average quarterback attempts. I'm going to hazard a guess, other than TCU, he's probably averaging around 13 to 15 passes per game. Now, granted, we are the number one rushing offense in the country. We should lean on that, etc. But at the same time, when it's not working, pivot. We did it defensively. I saw them try to make changes defensively in the second half. Did not see that on offense. So
he threw 35 this game. He threw 35 passes this game.
I get that, but we kind of had to because we were playing from behind. Same way with TCU.
Shedeur Sanders, obviously different offense. He threw 35 passes. He completed 28 of them. The
difference for Shedeur Sanders this game was he didn't throw 48 passes this game because he's normally throwing that many, and they gave more. They gave more. They handed the ball off more.
They ran the ball.
Than they had all year long.
With success and big moments too. They ran the ball.
Yeah.
All right, so let's pivot away from this game. Let's put this one behind us, and let's. I
hope our team's doing that.
Well, yeah, they need to. They need to stop sending Instagram messages to the people they play.
Love notes.
Yeah. So love Kobe Hudson. All right, dude, I understand, but timing is everything, right? Wait 2 or 3 weeks and say that, right? Don't do that right after the game. All right. So, let's recover last week's scores. Obviously, Trey and I were out. So we obviously won because we didn't lose.
No one won. No one won.
Allen was 38 points off of the total, and he was the closest to the pin. So obviously having 0 points because we didn't make a score prediction obviously wins. So I'm just going to say Trey and I won this week.
All of us lose.
42 to 28. Like I said, 42 to 28. As long as you just change the who won the game, then I was pretty close.
Yeah.
I will say this: without 4 turnovers, UCF wins this game.
Oh,
I'm serious though. I'm serious.
If Josh was only a foot and a half taller, he'd be in the NBA. I mean, come on,
no, he still wouldn't. There's no way. Maybe if I was a foot and a half taller, I might have had a chance.
What he's saying is just Colorado was good in the spots that win games, and we weren't.
Yes,
100%. All the yards, and to me, I've never been total yards guy because if you're playing defense to not give up a big play, you're going to give up a lot of yards. If you're good in the red zone, 20 and in.
Well, that's what you guys played.
And They
we
won
never cared
that
about how
game.
many yards we got.
Turnovers.
It was get turnovers,
Yep.
and in the red zone, stop and be great on third down. If you can be great on those three things, you're going to win a lot of football games.
We've been terrible on third downs the last two games. Now, granted, we outpaced TCU last week on third downs. So we actually did better and had more. We had a better percentage and had more. But it was still TCU's percentage was like 62%.
Exactly.
You need to be in the 30s to win games. You need to cut that third down percentage in half to win games.
And mind you, the way we beat TCU was at the end of the game. It wasn't like we dominated. We won off of a late touchdown.
Well, second half
play.
we dominated them.
Yeah, great play. And then they hooked a field goal. If they make the field goal,
I get it, but at the same time, you think I think there's a bias there because in TCU they played so well in the first half that you forget that we had to play so well in the second half because we were so far behind.
Perfect.
Yeah. So we just played, and this is what I've been telling you guys all season. I said this on the Big 12 huddle. I said this on Fourth and Florida, and I said it on this podcast. TCU right now is a 1/2 team. They can play excellent football for a half, but they can't put two together. And in some ways, we're the same way. All right.
That's actually what my wife said. She really summarized. She said this game was basically the TCU
I
game.
still have not met your wife or seen your wife, but I like your wife. So just tell her she's
this
awesome.
game was the
She made
TCU
at least two good decisions.
both halves.
Now, actually, I'm lying. I have seen your wife, but on softball stuff, right?
Stuff.
I have not seen her outside of softball stuff. So
if we're gonna go into the swamp and win at night, we got to show that we actually have heart, let alone show a lot of heart, because we showed that we didn't have any heart in that Colorado game, and that's the most disappointing for me.
For sure.
So I agree. All right. So speaking of the swamp, next up we've got a UF fellow college huddle podcaster who'll help us preview the game. Hello, everyone. This is Daniel from the Gator podcast, a fellow huddler. I can never get the college huddle right. If you guys listen to the podcast, it's always either cuddle, and now I've got feller. So Daniel's here to join us this week to talk to us a little bit about the Florida Gators. Preview what we should expect from the Gators, what we should expect from the swamp, and talk a little bit about how we match up. So Daniel, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. And from your perspective, let's talk a little bit. I'd like to start a little bit on the defense. I know offense is going to be a topic of conversation for sure, given the two quarterbacks, Mertz especially, and whether he's going to be the guy. And, you guys are coming off a win, so I imagine that would give you a little bit more confidence coming into this matchup. You're playing at home at the Swamp. What should we expect? What should UCF fans expect from this defense during this game? Because that's been a question mark so far this season.
Our defense, I would say, expect to be able to move the ball. That's one thing I've liked about Gus Malzahn throughout the years. Ever since he started in the FBS with Arkansas back in 2006, UF plays him in the SEC championship game as the OC who came in and really liked his system. Then, of course, went to Tulsa, ended up back at Auburn, and now he's ended up at UCF, and he's always been able to move the ball. And I know I'm talking about Malzahn before we get to our defense, but point is he's always been able to move the ball, and our defense really hasn't been able to stop anyone this year. It's really jumped off a cliff. We're on our third play caller in 3 years. I know that you and I talked in the preseason, and I've talked outside of recordings about how I thought the defense would take a step adding Ron Roberts. Well, I thought, and many Gator fans thought that, and even media thought that Ron Roberts was brought in to kind of be a backup and help Austin Armstrong perfect everything. We didn't realize he was being brought in as a replacement. But since then, the Gators have been a little bit more conservative on defense, where last year the defense was bad, but it was still aggressive in there. Just times we'd miss a tackle or one guy would be out of position, and you could see, okay, this could work if, you know, they were a little bit more experienced, because last year we played a ton of true freshmen, especially on the defensive line. This year, giving up a ton more yards, a lot more conservative, more of a bend but don't break style. The problem is we've let Cam Ward have pretty much a career day and really start a Heisman campaign against us. Granted, Samford was Samford, but then Texas A&M, redshirt freshman, first road game under Mike Elko. They come in 20-0 in the first half. And then not last week, we had a bye last week. But then we face Mississippi State week 4 on the road, and they put up 480 yards perfectly between 240 passing, 240 rushing. So what's that got to do with Gus Malzahn? Well, a guy who's been able to move the ball, find ways to move the ball with whatever personnel he's had wherever he's been. A defense that is giving up, even in wins, 480 yards. The Gator fans, and I think it's rightly so, are nervous that here come the Knights with a very athletic team to come and possibly drop a ton of points in the swamp. Of course, we hope that doesn't happen, but when you're laying Mississippi State, who also in that 28 points, we had one goal line stand, and then they were inside the 5 on the last play of the game. So the game could have been much closer, but for a few stops there. Yeah, I mean, really, it's a bunch of nerves for us. Strength of the defense really is probably cornerback, senior corner Jason Marshall, who has not allowed to touchdown this year. I don't believe he's been pretty locked down. His first 2 years at UF, he didn't allow a touchdown. Last year really took a step back, but then this year is really coming back into his own. The problem is everyone around him is really not helping. We haven't had much of a pass rush. And of course, if we don't get that pass rush, then KJ's going to have time to find receivers downfield. Now, I know KJ's had some issues. I'm sure we may talk about that a little bit. But if KJ has time, he could find ways to hurt us. And then as far as our linebackers, they're all right. But if they're being forced in the run play, then that opens up the pass. But if they sneak in, or if they're helping on the pass, well, we've given up tons of yards on the ground. And I know you guys have been really successful on the ground this year. Aren't you one of the top rushing teams in the nation?
We are. We were, as of last week, we were the top rushing team. We still put up significant yards against Colorado, but they really stacked the box and held back RJ Harvey, which a guy who has 150 yards during the game, I mean, that's all relative, right? But
right.
At the end of the day, we are, I believe, we're still top 5. I believe we're number 2 now behind Army as far as rushing offenses is concerned in the country.
Yeah. And that's why many Gator fans are concerned. I mean, you look at, and this is probably not the best example, but last week, Kentucky upsets Ole Miss on the road, has 40 minutes of possession. Well, I know usually UCF's a quick strike offense, but with the way our defense is played against the run, there's a chance that, if Malzahn wants to kind of slow it down, sit on it, and just run that football, there's a chance that may happen. Of course, I don't want to happen. I think the Gators hopefully have fixed something during the bye week. But as you and I have talked before, and I think preseason, hope is not a strategy.
Yeah, we definitely talked about that in between these 2 podcasts and Fourth in Florida for sure.
Oh, definitely. And yeah, so I would love to say that the Florida Gators defense is better than it is. We had years and years where we always top 25, and then the last 5-6 years, we've been generally awful. I think we are number 30 in 2021, but of course that was the year we went 6-7, and you guys beat us in the bowl game with Greg Knox as the interim right before Billy Napier, and then now
here we are on backup quarterback.
Yeah, and arguably our backup quarterback. I mean, well, at least who everyone wanted to be our backup quarterback. But unfortunately, AR was injured and couldn't play that game, but is what it is. Interesting night in Tampa, as I got to be there, or unfortunately got to be there. But yeah, back to this year. I know KJ's had problems. I think you and I have messaged some in games where I've said, what's he doing? And other times, there we go. Like, I think I was messaging you again in the New Hampshire game, and I said, of course, I'm on dog on KJ, and he's about to throw a 50-yard touchdown. And sure enough, he throws like a screen pass, and it goes for a 50-yard touchdown like 10 minutes later. But it'll be interesting how Florida plays that. Of course, last year, KJ comes into the swamp with a bad Arkansas team and ends up running all over us at times. I think in particular, Arkansas's last drive of regulation, we have them on a 4th down. Princely Umaman, who is now at Ole Miss, has a shot on KJ, hits him, doesn't take him to the ground, and he runs for a 1st down. Arkansas ties up the game, and we miss a kick at the end of regulation and end up losing in overtime. So a lot of Gators do have that concern about, can we take down KJ this year in a year where the defense looks worse than it has, in years. And every time the Gators think we can't get a new low on defense, well, we get surprised. So we'll see. I would love to come on your podcast and have the bravado of, we're the Gators and we're going to take you down. But I also have promised to be honest with my audience. I'll be honest with yours. After again, winning effort, giving up 480 yards against a Ole Miss team with someone UCF fans who are somewhat familiar with, and Jeff Levy, who inherited a terrible situation in Starkville. After seeing that, it's like, yay, we won, but we know the better teams are coming, and that starts this week with UCF. Granted, a little bit less tension after the Colorado game, but still, like I said, we made a redshirt freshman making his first start and on first road game under a head coach look really, really good just a few weeks ago. So who knows? We'll see how that turns out. But if you have any direct things about the defense, I can try and answer that for you. Like I said, the star is Jason Marshall, but if you stay away from him at corner, there's a good chance you can end up getting quite a few yards through the air if it's even needed.
So does Jason Marshall play both sides of the field, field corner, boundary corner, or does he just play one?
I've seen him. Yeah. I've seen him move around a little bit. For the most part, it's more about a right-left with the Gators defense. So yes, but we'll see. Again, off the bye week, I know they've been trying to switch things up. The question also is health, I should say, on that other corner, which is Devin Moore, who's a junior who is pretty good when he does play. The problem is he cannot stay healthy. So if he's not playing, all bets are off on where Marshall may play, because it may be, where does the backup feel more comfortable? Which I hate to put it that way, because you want your best guy in the best role. However, if just to steal like college football 25 terms, let's say the backup is a 75 on one side, but an 85 on the other, maybe you make that move. But again, we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah, it sounds like he's going to be covering Kobe Hudson, and I was just thinking, whether he kind of stays on one side of the field or the other, because we would want to put Kobe on the opposite side of the field from him if possible. He's our main receiving threat, and obviously we had Travis Hunter that we played last week, and he did a pretty good job on Kobe. And Kobe Hudson himself, he was second in receiving in the country before that game. So he pretty well shut him down. And I imagine that, Travis Hunter always stayed by the Colorado sideline because he plays both offense and defense. So I was just curious, because that may be something to look for, is to see where they put Kobe Hudson on the field. Okay, so defensively, it sounds like, yeah, and I will say this, not really to your fans, although I'll be joining you on your podcast, but really on to our fans. The team kind of looked lost. The offense kind of looked lost on this, and almost like they didn't do any prep work whatsoever. So I'm hoping that this upcoming week they look more like second half TCU and less like Colorado, because they just look like they didn't do the prep, and look forward to the Florida game. And just the little things that I saw on the field, KJ turning around and doing a loop-de-loop in the backfield because he was on the wrong side with the rock when the running back was coming down, just different things like that. So we'll see what happens there. All right. Offensively, you don't really have a QB competition so much as a QB rotation. You've got Lagaway and Mertz. Is the plan to continue to see a 2 QB rotation for the Gators in this game, or would you expect Lagaway to kind of take over for Mertz, or what are you thinking?
Well, I'll answer that in a sec. I do want to go back to what you're saying about moving your receiver around. There were times against Miami where Restrepo, their top receiver, ended up on one of our stand-up defensive ends. I mean, you could call them outside linebackers, but truthfully, for the most part, they're an end that we've had, play stand up. And so there have been, and it happened in multiple games, but I know for sure it happened against Restrepo. So just something to give your fans a little hope that we might do that makes us scratch our heads, but then you guys get a great matchup out of it. But anyways, as far as the Florida QB situation, from what it sounds like, and again, Billy Napier goes all sorts of weird ways with this, but from what it sounds like is we're going to see the same rotation that we saw against Mississippi State, which was Graham Mertz will get the first 2 series, and then DJ Lagway gets a third, and then same on and off. And what Billy Napier said before the Mississippi State game was no matter the result. And that was kind of weird because, for example, Florida scoring a touchdown on Graham Mertz first or second possession went 3 and out the first possession. And then now he's coming off the field. And so
is there a thought process behind that as to why he's, insider kind of thought process, or why he's doing that kind of rotation? I mean, it just seems to me that you go with the hot hand if one is having a great game. I don't understand the thought process behind that. Is there any sense of that from Billy Napier at all?
No.
Is it an NIL thing? Because there's a thought that DJU is playing, or there's a rumor and some information out there that says that he signed an NIL deal. It says he doesn't come off the field unless he's injured. Is there anything like that in the NIL deals for Lagaway, or?
No, from what I understand, Lagway, the plan was never to get him set drives, just to play packages. And if you look at the Miami game, he didn't even play until there's an injury to Graham Mertz. And then, of course, he starts the Samford game as Mertz was injured. And then we start to see the rotation a bit against A&M, and then Billy Napier just sets it before Mississippi State. It sounds like that's what it's going to be going forward. As far as what you're saying about wouldn't you just play the hot hand? And the answer is that would make sense. And to quote, I don't know if you've read the book series, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but there's a quote in there. If we knew the answer to that, we'd know more about life, the universe, and everything. And that's pretty much how many Gators feel about this rotation. It's not really taught to, or not really stuck to any NIL deal that I'm aware of. It's just, hey, here's what we've got going on. Here's how Billy wants to do it. And so he's going to go in there and do it, but it is really weird. And And then you have a situation like I talked about Mertz on drive 2 against Mississippi State, drives us down for a touchdown. Well, then on Lagway's first possession, Montreal Johnson fumbles the ball and Mississippi State recovers. So his drive didn't even end anything his fault after he made a few nice plays. And now Mertz comes back in. Although both move the ball really, really well, Florida fans do recognize, celebrate the good, celebrate that we won that game, but they also recognize that Mississippi State team might be the second worst team that we face on our schedule behind Samford. And so it's like, okay, it was good. We're happy, but will we be able to duplicate that result when we've seen what it looks like against, the better teams of Miami, of a Texas A&M? And now hopefully after a bye week, it'll look just as good against UCF, or that's the hope. I know that last week you guys have really struggled against the pass. Am I right in that? I know last week it didn't look good, but what about the other games?
Yeah, I mean, by and large, our biggest challenge with the passing game, the first few games, the opponent's offenses basically wanted to get the ball out quickly, right? Because our D line was pretty robust, right? And so they were afraid of that. So the average time the QB had the ball in his hands in the first 3 games, for all 3 games, was 2 seconds. So the people we were playing, they were snapping the ball, getting the ball out right away. TCU basically played dink and dunk the whole length of the field, thereby neutralizing our defensive line, right? TCU also, his quarterback had the game of his life. I mean, literally the game of his life. That really wasn't the pass defense as more as he was just getting it in space. And so there was a lot more yards and his completion percentage was really high because they were playing basically a spread offense, right? So they were dropping back. He'd get the ball out to somebody in space, pick apart the zone, and they'd get chunk yards off of it. Now last week, the DBs, especially Antoine Jackson, had a really bad game. He was the guy with big time 4-star recruit that was recruited to a bunch of different schools, Alabama, Georgia, all these different schools. Went to ECU last year because his girlfriend went there. And so she transferred to UCF. He came to UCF, but he had a terrible game. So there's a lot for them to fix from a technique perspective. Their tackling, for whatever reason, was terrible last week too. It was really a focus in the offseason, and their tackling looked pretty solid against the first 3 opponents that we played. But against Colorado, it was just terrible. Trying to shoulder tackle, do all this stuff. You can't do that. Can't do that in a conference game, and I don't expect them to do it against Florida. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I expect them to tighten up. I think they big time themselves a little bit. Got caught up in the hype. Big Noon was phenomenal. Best crowd by Big Noon's own account that they've ever had in the history of the show. We did the same thing for game day when we had it in 2018. Up to that point, we had the biggest crowd ever. So UCF fans will get out for that. Yeah. They were caught up in the hype. And I just don't think they prepared well. I don't know what they did in the bye week, but they did not prepare well for Colorado. And Colorado switched things. They switched their defense and they switched their offense on us, but they should have been able – they hadn't shown that offense or defense all season long, but they should have been able to overcome that. So we'll see. DBs are definitely right now are looking like they're the weakness. And part of that, I think, is technique too, because we play way off of the ball. All right. So going back to offensively, who are the players that folks should know on the offense for the Gators and how can they hurt you? And then what do you think the keys to the game for UCF to win would be? And what are the keys to the game for Florida to win if they were to win?
Okay. So I'll give some names that probably many UCF fans are not too familiar with. I could say Montrell Johnson, who's our main running back, but I'll stay away from him only because outside of a big run versus Miami, he's been so this year in the backfield. For example, Texas A&M 7 carries, -7 yards. So there are times he's been good, and he came back dealing with a knee injury. He did go 15 for 68 against Mississippi State, but again, he's a name that can every so often break one, but he's not the home run guy. However, I'll give the name Treon Webb, who's our backup running back, who's getting more carries and starting to show more and more why he came to the Gators, why the Gators wanted him beyond being a Gator legacy. He's the nephew of former Florida Gator and I believe Jacksonville Jaguar D Webb. And he runs downhill with power. However, he's got speed when he gets out into the open to make things happen, which is not something I was expecting to see too much in the offseason, but he's been a pleasant surprise there, as well as we've got another backup running back who had carries and looked really good against Mississippi State and really impressed in the spring game, Jaden Baugh. And those are two I'm hoping to see more out of. Granted, and I first bring up the running backs only because I have a feeling, despite, you're talking about the DBs are probably the weakness, Billy Napier wants to try and set that run for good or bad. He's probably going to set the run, and I'm going to tell you something that hopefully is no longer true after the bye week, but just a little thing for your listeners. If Florida lines up in pistol where the running back's behind the quarterback, that's a run 80% of the time. According to the statistics, we've got a guy in the fan base who is a big statistics guy, and he was showing that if it's offset, I think it's 60+% chance it's a pass. And the problem with that is if we know
showing your tendencies, 100%.
If we know as fans what's probably coming by alignment, chances are you guys do as well. Also, Billy Napier likes to run a lot of really tight sets, which of course, if you're trying to run the ball, is not the smartest thing. Let's be honest. Why do you want 11 guys as close as you can to the line of scrimmage if you're trying to run, in between the tackles? But that's a gripe for another time. Our biggest offensive weapon, Trey Wilson, I believe he'll be out. He had surgery for a meniscus injury after the Texas A&M game. So there's no timetable, at least now, on his return. Maybe tomorrow when the SEC injury report comes out. Of course, how much can you trust in injury reports? But we will see. So won't really say him. However, Aiden Mizell, who's a 4-star recruit, came in last year, did not play much. I think he only appeared in 1 or 2 games, red shirts. This year, actually, it was the A&M game. Didn't play too much, and a lot of people are questioning why is he not getting too much playing time when he looked pretty good against Samford. I mean, granted, it was Samford, but he's got track speed, and he put that on display, and especially when you have a guy like Trey Wilson, who's out and known for his speed, we need some speedy guy to take over. Well, we ended up playing a former walk-on ahead of him against A&M, and there's a lot of griping in the fan base about that. Well, all of a sudden, Mississippi State, Mizell comes in the game, plays quite a bit, has 2 touchdowns called back, one because his elbow scrapes the field. It's a good call to have back, but he wasn't called down on the initial play, made some terrific running to get into the end zone and showed off a lot of skill on that. Granted, it should have come back, but the skill you see after it hits for him to outrun everybody and make some moves, make people miss, is stuff you love. Had another great catch that was called back on, we'll say controversial is a nice way of putting it, blindside block. But again, I think there's 5 or 6 guys he makes miss, cuts back all the way across the field, catches the ball 5 yards downfield. I think he ends up running 100 yards or something ridiculous on the play by the time he cuts all the way from one sideline all the way back to the other for a diving touchdown. But this guy showed the ability to be explosive. And of course, the Gator fans who had been wondering where that was and why he wasn't playing, they seemed a little bit redeemed. And hopefully, knock on wood, we see a lot of him coming up against UCF, because I think if there's anyone who can help us out, it'll be him. But I'll also say our tendencies, as I talked about, our tendencies are to not have a quick game. You talked about the first few games, you average 2 seconds for the ball to get out against your defense. We like to run a bunch of play action, even if the run's not working. And so what happens with play action? Well, that automatically adds an extra half a second to a second on the drop back before the pass. And so getting into your keys, using that to transition, keys for UCF is know UF's tendencies. As far as UCF defense on UF offense, know our tendencies. Florida fans, if you can't tell, we're kind of fed up with being able to predict most of the play, and hopefully we don't show those tendencies, but know them, play them, and then adjust if you don't see them. But also get to the quarterback. Graham Mertz is not great. He's not going to beat you down the field too much. He'll have a good throw here and there, but for the most part, if you get pressure on him, he's not a quarterback who will win the game for you, but he's one who will not lose the game for you if that makes sense. And then I'd say, as far as a key for UCF when we're on defense, establish the run. If UCF can establish the run against Florida, then you're going to find success everywhere. Every team, and I said against Miami, I said to a few friends before the Miami game, I said, if they establish the run, I can see a scenario where we get blown out. And unfortunately, I was right. And it wasn't like Miami ran for 300 yards or anything crazy like that, but they did enough where we had to stack the box. And then once we stacked the box, they found matchups. Like I said, at one point we had our, outside linebacker position on Miami's best receiver, and he caught it, went for like 15, 20 yards. But things like that happen in our defense, unfortunately, right now. Again, hopefully bye week change that. But if you are able to establish the run, you will be able to find matchups like that in our defense, unless something has changed. As far as Florida keys against you guys, I really think for us, it's based on how we've seen this offense run, it's to establish the run as well. I know that's cliche since I just said it, but it's true. Everything in Billy Napier's offensive scheme, he is our play caller. Everything in that runs through the run. Like I said, we run lots of play action, even if we're not being successful with the run. So if Florida establishes the run, then that's going to open up a lot more of the Billy Napier offense. As far as defense, I think it's to get KJ Jefferson down and get pressure on him. It seems when he gets pressured, even last year at Arkansas, he's going to make mistakes, but part of that is you got to get him down. If you're hitting him and missing him, he might be able to take off and run for 5-10 yards. He might be able to hit a receiver who's now gotten open on a scramble drill. So it'll be very interesting to see. I do think that it'll be interesting to see how this sellout shakes out. I know a lot of Gator fans are touting like, see, we're frustrated with the season, frustrated with the coach, but we've got a sellout. But I also know UCF being as close as it is, I wonder if the fans traveling will be quite as big as Utah, who we consider to be the biggest traveling base we've had inside the stadium. It'll be a loud, fun nighttime game in the Swamp, and I look forward to seeing the UCF fans there, and I definitely think I'll be happy to see you there too.
Yeah, one final question, and this is a yes or no kind of question. Is this Billy Napier's last game coaching the Florida Gators?
Oh, you want me a yes, no? Can I give a one sentence qualifier?
Yeah, one sentence qualifier. I'll give that to you.
Okay.
The asterisk, the infamous asterisk.
Yes, the infamous asterisk. Gators win. No. Knights win. Yes. That's
okay.
That's my asterisk.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us this week, helping us understand the Gators a little bit and where they are. I'm excited to see the game, watch the game. And, I do think there will be a lot of UCF fans going. I can tell you that much. Obviously the UCF ticket allotment's gone, and there's a lot of folks that are buying tickets on the secondary market. So I expect that the Gator fans that did do that will make their money, and there'll be a lot of UCF fans that will be there for the game. All right, Daniel, if anybody wants to find you, where can they find you?
They can find me on X at Gator Podcast, or if you check out YouTube, it's the Gator Truth Florida Football Podcast. Really, it's not my name, but that's what it ended up being through the telephone game that I was doing with my logo person. It's like, you know what, that's gonna stay. But anyways, check me out. I promise to be fair in my game previews for the Knights. And I'd love to talk a lot of smack, but unfortunately, I feel we've got to have a team worth and results worth talking smack over. But thank you for having me. And again, look forward to seeing you this Saturday.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you so much, Daniel. And we'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much to Daniel from Gator Truth for joining us this week. We really appreciate you telling us how poorly the Gators are going to do and how much of in the bottle you guys are this week. We are on I truly believe we're on Billy Napier, retirement watch, or at least firing watch this week.
Yeah.
As long as we pull our weight. So when we talk about the Gators this week and that game, obviously it's a night game. It's in the swamp. There's going to be a lot of Knight fans there, although I think the energy and the confidence has waned a little bit since this last game, although we are still negative 2.5 point favorites. And you know that the home team always gets 3, right? So the bettors always give, or the line is always 3 points in the home team's favor. So that really means that it's 5.5 points is still a 1 score or 1 touchdown game, right? So Vegas believes it can go go either way, but it could go our way, and more likely to go our way based on where everybody's throwing their money. So let's talk a little bit. We won't talk much about this game, but let's talk a little bit about the Gators game. We've been talking about this quite a bit. DJ Lagway and Mertz are the 2 quarterbacks, and it's going to be really interesting to see how they play, right? And how our defense does against them. Mertz can be shook. He's not a mobile quarterback at all. He's a drop back passer. So we don't necessarily need to sack him, but we need to get him out of the pocket if he's the guy that's going to play. It's been a 2 QB system the whole time. The last game that the Gators played, Lagway didn't look that great. So here's to hoping both quarterbacks, which we will probably see in this game, continue that streak. Defensively, the Gators don't have a great defensive team this year. So we do have our opportunities offensively as long as we don't give the ball away. I think that's going to be the biggest takeaway for this game. It's going to be, an away game. Granted, it's not that far. It's 2.5 hours up the road. It's still in Florida. But it's still a big game for us with implications. I mean, Colorado was a big game for us for implications with recruits. They could look at it one of 2 ways. Either, hey, this team really needs help, so we need to sign on board, right? Or it could have been a, wow, UCF sold out their, or quote unquote sold out or gave out their entire recruiting allocation for this game. So there were a lot of recruits. Both folks that we're recruiting and have a chance with, folks that have already signed on, and folks that are potential recruiting candidates that watch the Colorado game. This week is that much more important from a recruiting perspective to make sure we win the hearts and minds of the Florida football faithful. So, guys, I don't know what you guys want to say about this game, but we'll get to the predictions in a minute. But I think even if this is a close game, as long as we don't turn over the ball, I think that we're going to win. Their defense is weak. Their quarterback position is questionable. I think we have a lot of opportunity if we don't beat ourselves in the swamp.
Pause.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the it'll be interesting to see how well we would talked a lot about our own defensive inefficiencies that we have, or our holes on our defense, especially some of the questionable things that we've seen in our secondary over the course.
And linebacker play. Ethan Barr last week was terrible.
Well, all three levels. We're not getting any pressure on the quarterback either. So, like you said, we got to get, if Mertz is in the game, we certainly have to get pressure. If pressure on him to flush him out of the pocket. Flagway is in the game. He creates exciting plays outside of the pocket. And so it's going to be for the lack of preparation, or at least the seemingly lack of preparation that we saw going into this past week. I'm just hoping that they can lock back in and with their backs against the wall here and kind of needing to prove themselves that we can just bounce back in a huge way, especially defensively against them. The other thing that kind of would have encouraged me a lot more had we not seen what we saw on Saturday, but just their run defense has not been very good, as you mentioned, Roger, from what I've seen of.
Neither has Colorado's.
Yeah, fair, but and you're right. So they're going to have a similar game plan. Certainly, Colorado showed UF and other opponents of ours this season. And TCU did as well. That kind of showed a little bit of how to out scheme us, and so. Like I said, their run defense hasn't been very good. So hopefully this week we can kind of figure out how to exploit that rather than kind of running right into it.
Yeah, I think one of the big things for us, I actually got some statistics from the recent interviews that the coaches gave defensively. On average, the three previous opponents to Colorado got the ball out within 2 seconds. Jeez. On average. Okay. So the way to make us, if we're not going to have the pass rush that we want, and John Walker, by the way, is out again this week. If anybody was wondering if there was an update on John Walker, he will not play against Florida. Miles Montgomery is questionable. He was in a leg brace at the game. So he did not suit up. He was in a leg brace. Miles Montgomery is questionable. More than likely, he's not going to play, folks. I don't think the way you can negate a pass rush two ways, right? Either you've got a good blocking tight end, a couple blocking tight ends, and a running back that's pretty good at blocking, or you have a situation where you get the ball out fast. If it's Mertz, his average yards per attempt is low, and I expect them to get the ball out quickly to try to break up our defense if we're crowding the box. And to Ben's point, they will crowd the box against us, and we are going to have to come out with a game plan that is going to break that up. Tunnel screens, pitches, jet sweeps, passes to RJ Harvey. Whatever it is that we need to break up the middle of the defense so that we can open up our running game, make them respect the edges, because right now either respect the edges or respect the 0 to 10 yard pass game, because right now, if we don't, and we just try to chew them up, we are playing, no matter what you say, it's a SEC defensive line. This is the type of football that they play. They're going to be skilled enough to stop what we do traditionally until
they got
the third
a big old boy at D tackle. He's like 450 pounds.
So they got Refrigerator Perry from out of Gainesville, on D line. So again, they're going to have big athletes. These are 4-star players, 5-star players. The Gators recruit well. We can't out-athlete them. We've got to play smarter and take advantage of the advantages that we have in the scheme. So if you thought this was a coaching failure this week, Coach Malzahn, bone up, because it's all going to be about the scheme this week.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think no matter even how we played last week, this is still, to me, the biggest game in UCF history because of what's at stake. I think, the Gators, in my opinion, they're not that good of a football team. This is the time you maximize and take advantage of that as a program that we are. We want to make people feel like there's not, like, why should I go to Florida when I can go to UCF right there? I have more fun. It's in Orlando and not in Gainesville. And the football team is really good. That's the kind of things, outside of the money, that's the kind of things these kids now think about. Like, that's what they want. If I can get the exact same value of playing on the field, playing high-level games, making money, why would I go to Gainesville when I don't know if their coach is going to be there when I commit? I don't know how good they really are. They're going to be in the SEC. So, to be honest, they're probably going to go on a streak where they're going to start losing a lot of games. Why wouldn't I go to UCF in Orlando and get the exact same thing but better? Like, that's to me what this game means. Because I've always said, and the state of Florida, it's, as far as like just college, it's Miami and Orlando. Everything else is just, you can find it anywhere. You can find Tallahassee anywhere. You can find Gainesville anywhere. That's every college in the Southeast, to be honest. I think Orlando and Miami is different because you're in a true city. You can do so many things outside of college and things inside of college. So to me, I think it's still the biggest game. And I still think we should beat them. This is not a good football team. They're a talented football team just off of recruiting and all that, but they haven't put together sound. They have two quarterbacks. That's high school, to be honest with you. You don't really do that unless guys are hurt, which Mertz, he's not hurt. Or to me, that's, you don't want to pull the senior, but the freshman is just super talented, but you don't trust him. Like, that's the only time. And I think that's two bad situations. So,
yeah, you're talking about showing recruits that you're the program on the rise, you're the school on the rise, and Florida is a school on the decline. Like you said, it's not like the SEC is getting any easier, right? Like, so you're showing the talented recruits across the state, across the Southeast, that you're the program you're gonna attach yourself to this rocket ship that is going up, the future of college football. As Gus always says, you're going to attach yourself to a winner moving forward, as opposed to a program on decline. And that's the sales pitch. As long as we take care of business and beat them. If we don't, then it's going to be like, yeah, these guys weren't ready for the big time. They showed it. They at least, recency bias are going to say they're, they couldn't show it under the bright lights against Colorado. They couldn't show it under the bright lights in the swamp against a traditional, premier program in the state. And so they're not ready for this level of college football. So you need to come here so you can bring UF back to prominence. Exactly. That's the pitch. The pitch changes.
Exactly. And like,
by the way, breaking news, and this is why this is so important. Carl Jenkins Jr., 4-star wide receiver, 2025 class commit that has been committed since 2025 or since June, 6'3", 180 pounds, from St. Augustine, Florida, decommitted after the game. He was at the game. So if you want to understand how important this is why it's important. They have
You're saying he was committed to us and he decommitted after the Colorado game?
He's been committed to us since June and decommitted after Colorado. He was at the Colorado game in UCF gear and decommitted today.
And that's like, just thinking as a recruit, when you go on these visits, you're trying to envision yourself, what would my life be here? That's one of those things. When you're at a game, it's, how are they going to?
It's all cookie cakes and rainbows. You know that.
But even at the games, they're like, okay, you guys are telling me how you're going to use me. Now I get to see how you're going to use me, because they always make, like, this is a guy we envision you to do. Like, they might say, oh, we think you're going to be the Kobe Hudson of our team. You think you're going to be the Javon Baker. Well, when you come and see it, you want to see how they're using Kobe Hudson, how they're using Javon Baker. I don't know why he decommitted. There could be a multitude of reasons, but that was not the showing. If I'm a receiver, that I'm like, yeah, I want to go to UCF because they're going to use me correctly. Like you can't beat that. I'm not saying that's why. I'm just talking just what you're saying about it.
Let's say this: we still have 3 4-star wide receiver commits.
Oh yeah. No, I'm not taking. I'm just saying that's what. When you mentioned that he decommitted after being at a UCF game decked out in UCF gear, that's not normal.
Nope.
Unless he just got like an Ohio State offer and $100,000s of dollars to come play there, I don't see why you would after a visit like that. And or maybe we pulled it, and that happens too. I don't know.
You know what? Javon Boggs had a questionable tweet today too. So, this matters. This was a failure. This was an abject failure. The way that we get that momentum back is by beating Florida in the Swamp. I think there's a lot of
it shows the importance of this game in particular because of the opponent and because of our history, or lack thereof. The amount of years that we've been doing this, and the amount of years that we've been rising to a certain level, and the amount of years that Florida has been at that level. This matters. This game matters big time.
And even like you said earlier, Ben, like when most people are pitching these Florida, like to go to the University of Florida, when I was getting recruited, it was cool to be like, come be Percy Harvin, come be Jeff Demps, Tim Tebow. They don't pitch that anymore. Like, I mean, they actually still do, but these younger kids, they don't look at Tebow in the same light we do. They don't look at him. UCF has more recent highs than Florida has that we can pitch, the Mackenzie Miltons, Traquans, Mike Hughes, even recently, like JRP, like he played well. All that
Javon Griffin,
Javon Baker, like all these guys, we can sell that now and playing good football. So, like you said, this game is huge just for the ramifications of how different you look at it based off the outcome. You can look at it so drastically different both ways.
Yep.
All right. So, it'll be really, really, really interesting to see what happens at UF this weekend. I think it's an opportunity for us to regain the momentum in a lot of different ways. Colorado was a embarrassment on the national stage. We had the opportunity to make a name for ourselves. We would have been top 25 if we would have won that game. And we have another opportunity to make a statement that we have recovered and we are who we thought we were. So let's go ahead and make our score predictions and move on to the next level. So Ben, you made your score prediction about 2 years ago for this game, but recently changed it within the past 15 minutes. So why don't we start with you? What is your score prediction for?
Well, I recently changed it just because I went back to my original instinct. I think this is going to be a little bit of an ugly game in the Swamp. I don't think it's going to be necessarily as high scoring. And so I originally had I wanted to write this, and then I wrote down 24-21 UCF, but I actually just changed it to 21-20 UCF. I think it's going to be a 1 point win, low scoring game, kind of ugly, 21-20 UCF.
All right. Interesting. Go ahead, Trey. What are your thoughts this week?
Yeah, I'm with Ben. I think it's going to be close. Never going to pick against the guys. That's my motto for now. If it starts, I might have to start changing it. But I think it's going to be low scoring. I'm going to say 24-23. I think it's going to be like how we just looked at last game, where we can point to the plays that changed the game. I think it's going to be very similar. Like it's going to be, I can't believe we made that play that won us the game, or it's going to be, if only we made that play, we would have won the game. I think it's going to be that close. So 24-23 is my prediction.
Josh, quit messing with the notes, dude. I see you in there. All right. So Alan actually had a score prediction in there, but apparently Josh feels like he wanted to change it 420 to 29. I don't know where that, but so Allen's 420 to 69. Interesting choice there, Josh. That being said, Allen's actual score prediction was 35-24 UCF. And
Hold on,
after everything,
you don't get a score prediction if you're not on the podcast. That is no.
Well, that's why Trey and I won last week. I mean, we've already established that.
we established we all lost.
All right, so Nobra is chiming in with a score prediction, and he sent it in before Ben did, which was 3 years ago. His score prediction for this week is 21-34 UCF. Great job, Nobra. We've got that down. As for me, I am going to say UCF wins this game 28-21 in a close one. And Josh, last but not least, but always last.
I'm putting on gold colored glasses. I already put it up there. So you don't play with the notes. I'm making your job easier. Come on. I'm putting on gold colored glasses and think it's going to be like a 10-point win. I'm going 34-24. Good guys. I know it's silly. I don't mind being silly. I hope I'm not wrong, but they're not that. They haven't put up anything more than 20 points on a halfway decent team. Mississippi State doesn't count. Neither does Stanford.
Well, I will say this. You are right. I think part of this is at the end of the day, I think part of this is we're coming off of a pretty bad loss and pretty hurtful loss. And, that's a big part of this. All right.
We have to come out sharp this game.
We have
how we did like last game. There's going to be.
I want us to come out like we did against TCU, passing the ball. Let's throw some RPO. Let's throw the RPO away for a minute. Start with some play action. Throw them off for the first few series, and then come back to our run game because we know we have it. So that's
like you said, Roger. Pass the run. Pass the ball so we can run.
Exactly. Break up that box. Get KJ in a rhythm. Get some short passes in there. Give him that confidence, and let's go from there. All right, it's time, huh?
Dare I say a slant route, something?
Yeah.
maybe?
Well, hey, you know what? You say that.
There were some track routes.
And Sam Houston, we had crossing routes, we had slant routes, we had all of that. We did not have that against Colorado.
No.
Okay. Let's go ahead and pivot.
Pivot.
All right. The delayed pivot. We're slowly getting back to midseason form. Let's recap the Big 12 scores. So if you weren't paying attention to the other Big 12 teams, Arizona beat Utah 23-10. That's not right. Is it?
On.
I think it was
the other way around.
Yeah,
Utah beat Arizona 23-10.
Yeah, let's say. I think they're
ISU beat Allen. I don't know. I mean, he must be drunk off Haterade or something. I don't know what's going on with him. His brain's still messed up and seizing from this Colorado game.
No, Arizona.
No, I just copy and pasted it straight from ESPN scores. It was
Arizona won.
Arizona. What?
Utah lost this weekend.
Wow.
Did they really?
Yes.
This is how bad we were playing. Jeez.
See,
listen, I blocked out the entire college football
weekend.
Exactly.
So breaking news to Roger.
It literally is breaking news to me because I did not pay attention to anybody else.
Oh, no.
All right. So Arizona beat Utah 23-10. ISU beats Houston 20-0. That doesn't surprise me, although I'm a little surprised ISU didn't score more than 20 points on Houston. KSU beat Oklahoma State 42-20. It sounds like they're starting to clip. And remember, KSU had a bad loss recently as well. So who knows? BYU beats Baylor 34-28. So that defense is still coming through for them. TCU beat KU 38-27. I think KU's got a lost season going on. So sorry, Andrew Fagley.
Yeah.
Not sorry. Colorado 48, UCF 21. We knew that already. And Texas Tech seems to be finding their offense. It's 44-41. I was expecting a lot more out of Texas Tech. They got a slow start, but they seem to be catching their win. And Cincinnati has been playing a lot better. They're offensively, they've been playing a lot better. And guess who we play after the Gators? Of course, Cincinnati. All right. Moving on from the Big 12, and let's do a quick update of listener love. So for all of our new listeners last week, obviously, since you had Alan, Ben, and Josh, they gave you no love. They hated you. They gave you no love. So this week, I'm here to save the day. Nancy Eisenhower, thank you so much for following us. Juan Rodriguez, thank you. And Michael Castle, thank you for joining our family. Now, there were a few comments both last week and this week. Since I was out, I'll go ahead and mention a few of them as we kind of moved along during the season, starting off with, and forgive me, folks, if I mess up your handles. I'm going to do my best as we move through this. So I'm going to start with our Guapiri. I think I got that. On the road means nothing in American sports nowadays. You, sir, or madam, were 100% correct, obviously. Anthony Rasulo, 2162. Well done, gentlemen. Thank you so much, and thank you for being part of our family. Hey, Duda06 says, just found you guys. Loving the UCF fan podcast I'm seeing lately. You earned a new fan. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much for being part of the family. Lawrence RBE2661. This didn't age well. This was Josh's instant reaction to Big Noon Kickoff. With a bunch of rolling on the floor emojis, crying out loud, laughing.
I didn't even see that. I have
Yep,
to watch
and
that.
I said, nope, and neither did the team's defense after the first interception. And come to think of it, turnovers, neither did the offense. So shout out to you for listening and watching our short. And then Jermaine Dow, 1481. I thought it was going to be a tight game, but see, you gave them the gap sauce. 100% correct. So for those of you that are watching or listening, thank you so much. For those of you that are from other fan bases, and again, this doesn't capture everybody that follows us. We gained, I think it was 9 new followers since last week. So thank you so much for following us. If I didn't shout you out, it's because YouTube didn't show you to me. It's not because we don't love you. So thank you so much for going along this ride. All right, moving on. Let's go ahead and pivot. All right. Josh is sometimes funny. The fact of the week. Josh, take us away.
Okay, I'm going to do 2 quick because we have lots of things that went on here. We talked earlier that unfortunately the last loss this big was when Trey was a freshman versus the Cows. Let's do an over and under and see if Trey even remembers his own stats.
Oh,
during that game,
I like this one.
The number is 4. Did Trey get over or under 4 tackles in that horrific game where we only scored 3 points?
Over.
Who else?
You said 3 tackles?
I'm agreeing with the man. He says over. I'm going over.
Did you say 3 tackles?
I said 4. 4.
Are we talking solos?
Good question.
Total. That's a very good question.
Total tackles. He said.
Total tackle. Oh yeah, he's got over 4.
I think I had over 4 solos too. That was. Oof.
I don't know. Josh is not reacting with your right, so I don't know, bro. I'm gonna say 4.
I'll make it easy because we're at. There were 4 solo tackles and it was 5 total. 5 total.
There you
go.
I
forgot who was. Someone had 15 tackles and 10 of them were assisted.
I think that was probably Dominic Spencer.
Yes, it was.
And we still lost. All right, go ahead, Josh.
Here's one other quick one because we are talking UF, and it's just a bad week. It's a lot of L's this week. In 2006, UF routed UCF 42-0. I was at that game. That was not fun. But one notable thing came out of that game. What is the one thing we were the first to do against Tim Tebow at that game?
Sack him.
Sack him was
I don't know how many times.
first. No, I'm gonna say intercept him.
Trey,
I have no idea.
Trey
I
was
can
still
make some really bad, funny jokes
Force
on
a
this
fumble,
one, but I'm
force a
gonna
fumble.
leave that alone.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
yeah.
John.
Well, I mean, actually, Ben and well, I think Ben is. I am 100% on the interception. It might have been the first forced fumble too. We didn't do much of that game. We were the first team to ever intercept Team TiVo. That was his second career game, because it was him in the league show, and I believe he played at Southern Miss. But we got the first interception on Team TiVo. Yay!
His
Before that,
freshman
you
year,
said
he never
Team
threw the
Tebow.
ball. He just came in on the goal line.
I was going to try to give you the person. The deepest cut would be who did it, but I don't think anyone would remember, so we won't even go there.
Nope.
But yeah,
we prefer to forget losses, Josh.
Oh,
which is why I'm
listen.
surprised you brought it up this week.
Listen, we have to.
You could have brought up Gator Slayer stuff. You could have brought up like any kind of other positive type of news, but you chose to like hurt us. I mean,
there's
seriously,
a reason, because this is just almost an entire week of UCFLs. We only had one saving grace, and I'll talk about that.
All right. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get the quick update on other UCF sports that Alan does not watch for a very good reason this week. Go ahead, John.
So thank you, men's soccer. That was the only win of the entire week of any UCF sport.
Man,
There's some ties. So thank you, men's soccer, for beating our Georgia State 2-1, our first Sun Belt opener game. So up next is an away game at number 6 West Virginia on Saturday, October 5th at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'd like to see a W there too. We'll see what happens. Women's soccer lost to Kansas 0-4, but came back to tie with Kansas State 1-1. They were up there the whole time, and they came from behind to score the equalizer. Their next game is away game at, guess what? West Virginia, one day earlier, Friday, October 4th at 7 p.m.
I wonder if they chartered a plane together.
I could probably find that out, and I'll see if I can. Women's volleyball lost to Kansas State and number 9 Kansas. That happens 0-3. They did not win a set this entire week, which is odd, but the conference schedule for a lot of our games are pretty hard. Didn't expect that, but up next is West Virginia at home. Guess what? On October 2nd at 7 p.m. We're playing a lot of people up north, and also they have a away game on Cincinnati Saturday, October 5th at 1 p.m. West Virginia is home. We're still playing them, but we're not going anywhere. One last quick thing, and speaking of women's soccer, head UCF women's coach Tiffany Roberts-Sahadic and UCF Hall of Famer Michelle Akers and the entire 99, they call the 99s, Women's World Club soccer team. They're winning a Wilma Rudolph Courage Award next month up in New York City. So that's kind of cool news that just came out recently. Not things that Alan doesn't watch, but I thought it was worth the shout out.
Well, I'm pretty sure he will not watch that either. All right. Thank you so much for bringing us the great news about other UCF sports that Alan does not watch this week. All right. Final thoughts real quick. Guys, this is a must win at Florida. I'd like to think this is what we've all heard about the typical Gus Malzahn what the moment. I did not finish that sentence because we are E for everyone. He tends to drop a game, and you heard about it at Auburn. You heard about it everywhere else he's been. He tends to drop a game that's just like, what the heck is going on? I hope he pulls everybody up by their bootstraps. I would have said something else, but again, we're a clean show, and really drills into them the importance of putting forth your heart, putting forth the effort, and making sure you're winning the film game.
Turnover?
Because honestly, at the end of the day, I think this team was overmatched. I think they were overmatched because they weren't mentally into it, and I don't think that they didn't prepare very well. So for the coaching staff, for the team, I hope you guys are hitting the game film this week and are ready for Florida. That's all I've got for this week. Thank you guys so much for following us. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for listening on all the podcast channels. Thank you for following us on X and all of the other places that we've got going. Go Knights and
Charge on.
Charge on,
I
baby,
had
regardless
so-
of the loss.
I had so many things that I wanted to do for like bars. I had